If you're ready to hit the track in the iRacing Ford FR500S Mustang, then sign up for the Barber Ford Mustang Club today. With great prizes from our awesome sponsors, this league is fast, fun, and best of all, free to race in. Take on 6 races of wheel-to-wheel action, all broadcasted live on Pit Stop TV. As a member, you will receive a $500 voucher to Barber Ford, plus entry into a raffle for a brand new Fanatec H-pattern shifter. Every point you earn on the track is 1 entry into the raffle, meaning you can race into a Fanatec shifter drawn on December 15th. Battle your competitors at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Watkins Glen, Road Atlanta, Barber Motorsports Park, Brands Hatch, and for the finale, Lime Rock Park. Join the Barber Ford Mustang Club at League ID 3350 today.
Silverstone Circuit has been a classic for decades in Formula One and other series, of course being carved from an airfield that was used during World War I and II, but Silverstone Circuit has also undergone some pretty serious transformations, always including this national circuit. That said, this national circuit has undergone some recent changes as well. New curbing, new pavement, that sorts, not just in real life, but on iRacing.com. And it's here this evening for us to go racing in week number 7 of Production Car Challenge Racing. This has been a lot of fun so far. This Production Car Challenge series as a whole has always been one that I've enjoyed on iRacing, and now bringing it to the masses via Barber Ford has been a serious treat. Let's get right into the sim and get talking about this race, because we have got a fun one. We've got one of the largest fields of Renaults we've had all season. As we take a look, not so high, but somewhat high above the virtual Silverstone Circuit. Beautiful day in virtual England. 68 degrees in the air. I think it's morning, maybe 69 degrees on track. It's a nice partly cloudy day. Let's take a look at the track map. This is a pretty interesting, pretty small course. It's definitely making something out of, well, a triangle. I've said pretty much all season leading up to this race, it feels like a bit of a misshapen triangle, but I really do love this national course. It's going to be a lot of fun with these multi-classes. Of course, the Mustangs will be able to handle comps pretty decently, but push on exit. I say handle comps pretty decently only because of speed. Otherwise, I think every car is probably better suited to go through comps just as far as actual cornering ability. But of course, the Mustang's going to have that speed also to help from Aintree down to Brooklands, down the Wellington Straight, and back up out of Luffield through Woodcote, and again, of course, back around to Cops. Even that run into Maggots, the Mustang makes some pretty decent speed, as we saw a couple of weeks ago when we came here on the full circuit. Of course, welcome to Pit Stop TV, should have included that. Welcome to Pit Stop TV, the virtual Silverstone circuit. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV, yada yada. All of that fun stuff. We've got a lot to talk about today. Here's a look at the schedule for this season. Checking in for week number 7. Next week we head out to Willow Springs. We'll talk more about that, and oh man, Nürburgring is creeping up. I got to figure out how to make cameras at that place, but of course that means I have to figure out how to make a lap around it. Qualifying dwindling down. If we take a look at the ticker on the left side of the screen now, we do have a pretty decent, I say decent, Renault field. It's not paging like we had a few weeks back, but hey, I'll take 3 Renaults in the field. Tim George and David Levine coming over from the Lucky Motorsports Street Stocks to join us in Renaults this evening, so good to see them. Take a look at the standings, though. We have, of course, 2 different pages of standings to go through. Here's a look at your Mustang and Renault standings. Benjamin Roberts has been top of the series for a long time, stays there. That Australian has been oh so hard to catch. Nobody has been able to do so, really, and I expect him to dominate again this evening. Kevin has taken some extra wins recently. Kevin Parrish was great last week at VIR, and we didn't see Benjamin Roberts, I don't think, in that top split, so that was certainly +1 for Kevin as far as this particular race, but we'll see how things go tonight as they are both in this field. Down in Renault's, not much changing. Jack Johns still your top driver. Now, over in Toyotas, this has been interesting to document the last few weeks. Scott Banks has now entered the top 5 in 2 different classes. Of course, he's been in the top 5 in Mustangs all season long, now enters in week number 7 in the 5th position in Toyotas, and he's been running the Mustang in that first split of the week, then running the Toyota in the second, and kind of bouncing between them, which is really kind of interesting. You don't see many drivers do that. So Scott Banks creeping up there, and it's been a lot of fun to watch in the Toyotas in this split in particular, giving us some really cool racing back there in that class. And then you see your Mazda standings. I think the closest battle of the bunch, actually, is Jack Veazey is just 55 behind Matthias Hokelin, but I don't think either one of them are in this race. They usually aren't. Yeah, just a quick look. Well, we do have Ray Lombardi, a community rep for the Mazda, but we don't have any other of these Mazda drivers, it looks like. And this is actually a pretty small set of drivers this week. Only 51 registered for this time slot, so a relatively small sampling, but hey, we have the top split on our hands. A quick look at Whiplash SimCam's race details. 25-minute race. Mustang Clio GR86, MX-5, open setup, fast repair, all the usual stuff. Here's a look at one of our Clio drivers, Ed Rest, coming across the line. Alan Bonilla out there in his Mazda. Andrew Perkins, of course, in his Toyota. And that is it for qualifying. We'll take a look at the grid here in just a moment and let things go by. I see a lot of you guys, by the way, on the YouTube chat. Hello to all of you. Glad to see you all tuning in this evening. It really is a pleasure, as always, to have some of you guys. I see Get Some back in the chat. He was here last week at VIR, I think, for the first time. I see Gazaboy out there. I see Jonathan Burt. I see Larry Lovesome. I see all you wonderful fellows out there in the YouTube chat. It is appreciated that you tune in on this fine Monday evening. Now, as usual, we're going to let the grid go by on the bottom of your screen. This is by overall qualifying position. A little bit difficult to sort out by classes. We're going to work on that, I'm sure, by the end of the season, but you can watch them all go by verbally anyways. Benjamin Roberts, Fabian Zweyer, Kevin Parrish, Dan Taylor, your top 4 in Mustangs, and David Finch and David Fernandez. Followed up by the Toyotas. Nicholas Sudik will start from pole. And actually, this is a relatively, I say relatively, organized starting grid, at least until you get down to the Renaults, as Tim George will lead the Renaults to the grid. David Levine and Ed Rest will follow him. We're going to have, I think, a decent fight down in the Renault Clios, just as we always do in every other class. Looking like a good day. I really think we're going to have some really good racing here as we get ready to go racing. Benjamin Roberts. Wow, we have a lot of time, actually. We haven't finished gridding. We still have the whole pace lap to go through. We have a lot to talk about then. We will have some time, I suppose, to talk about some different cars and different drivers. Benjamin Roberts, of course, top of your grid. And further back, we're starting to get to guys like, well, you see Thomas Arevalo on screen. I'm not used to having this much time. Usually these guys have already gridded up. This is not what I'm used to. There we go. We're rolling off of the grid. That's a bit more what I'm used to now as everybody rolls on by. Well, since we have a moment, let's talk about our upcoming broadcast here at Pit Stop TV. Let's take a look at the back row of the field. Kevin Hart, the final driver of our 26, checking in this evening. So as far as upcoming shows on the channel, we'll talk more about these later on, but you see, tomorrow night, you're actually going to see two of the drivers in this field go run street stocks at Langley Speedway, a short track in Hampton, Virginia. In the Lucky Motorsport Solutions Street Stocks brought to you by Elevator Performance, and I will highlight those two drivers in a moment. But Wednesday, we go racing in the elimination race for the UFL Elite Series from Phoenix International Raceway. That's the 2008 version in the Gen 4 Cup car. Then Sunday evening, October 29th, it's out to Martinsville Speedway in Ridgeway, Virginia for the Shake and Bake Racing Butt Kicker Cup Series. Everybody's starting to give some space to different classes. Let's take a look in that Renault class at a few different drivers. Here is Tim George, who qualified on pole this evening. A little further back, you'll find David Levine and Ed Rest. Now, Tim George and David Levine are actually the top two in standings in that LMS Street Stock Series. And it's interesting that they're joining us for this race, actually. I did not expect this at all. There are definitely a couple of good road course drivers. In fact, David has got several IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge starts to his resume. Just did not at all expect this from these guys. Glad to see them here, though, as our Mustangs roll down into Woodcote and get ready to come around and take the short run to the green flag. Oh, the Toyota has not left the grid. Who is that? That is Brooks Wegner, has not left the grid. Oh, this is going to be disaster as they try to split him, I think, on the front stretch. That's terrible. It's like he's gotten up away from his car and just left it there. And now he straightens the wheel out in front of oncoming Mazda traffic. Oh my goodness. Still unmoving on the front stretch. This is absolutely atrocious of a driver to do. Just leave their car on the grid. Anyways, Benjamin Roberts going to lead us into Brooklands and Luffield for the first time as racing gets underway. Our Mustang's already about to complete lap number one. They've taken off away from the field. That is really putting a dampening on the start of this race. Down in Renaults, you've got a nose-to-tail battle between Timothy George and Ed Rest as they exit Luffield. And Brooks Wegner is still on the front stretch, not moving. Unfortunate. Only 6 Mustangs. It means we're going to have a stack Toyota field, I'd say. And it looks that way. Nicholas Sudik out front. Daniel McConnell second place. Andrew Perkins in third. Scott Banks in that 4th spot. And Tyler Agostino, I believe, was that car that made contact with the... No, he was not. Who was the Toyota that made contact with that stopped machine? It might have been Tomas Arevalo here. Tomas Arevalo. As we've got some battles up on the Mustangs. This is going to be an interesting race. This is a very short track for these guys. And you know what? Get some. We do not have full course cautions in this series. In fact, we don't in any kind of road racing on iRacing unless admins throw it. And since we don't have admins in this race, well, we're not going to see any caution flags. Good battle here on the Toyotas. Everything is just my whole rhythm is completely thrown off by a car being stopped, and finally it looks like Brooks Wegner has towed to the pit lane. Completely unsure as to what's gone on there, but 22 minutes to go. We can kind of get back into the rhythm of things. Benjamin Roberts has left the field by over a second already. Kevin Parrish in the second spot, Fabian Zweyer third, and that leaves Fench in fourth. And they work back onto the Wellington straight. Now you see Dan Taylor, David Fernandez further back. Only 6 Mustangs. These guys are going to have a pretty stacked race as well. I mean, Fernandez is not far off of these guys ahead. Parrish, Zweyer, Fench, he's been in trains with them earlier in this season. That said, looks like Fernandez having some trouble pointing the car to the apex of the corner there in Brooklands, and it's a tough place to get a Mustang to turn here at Silverstone. Brooklands and Luffield especially, it is not easy, as we've got some Clio on Clio action. This is for the race lead, and David Levine falling into the Toyota field. He's right in the midst of these guys, going to hold up Andrew Perkins, it looks like, but Ed Rest, Tim George, here we go for the top position. And Rest is maybe going to take that spot away. It was close. And sure enough, he has cleared Tim George in the number 22. So some short run speed maybe out of Tim and David, but Ed has got some longer run speed maybe, as David now lets the Toyotas go by, it seems. Tim George, though, not giving up here on Ed Rest. This is some of the closest Renault racing we've ever seen, at least on Pit Stop TV. Oh, Tim. Tried turning in there. And there you see Nicholas Sudik coming around the bend, around Aintree. Getting closer and closer to these guys. They're pretty good on the short run, but they burn their tires off quick and start to fall back to those Toyotas. As David Levine has certainly seen his mix into the Toyota GR86 field, and now Tim George gets in a little bit deep to Brooklands and lets Ed Rest get away. So Nicholas Sudik on power. We'll come around turn number 6 and begin a new lap. He's already got a 1.6 second lead on Andrew Perkins, his teammate. So those guys have got this place figured out for sure. Perkins now over Dan McConnell. Scott Banks in the third position. And we've got, I think, a really good battle shaping up. I believe this was our fight last week at VIR in this exact time slot. However, we didn't have a Benjamin Roberts to spoil it. So we had Kevin Parrish and Fabian Zweyer show up and absolutely put on one of the best battles we've seen in Mustangs all season long. A little bit different here this evening. They're a bit more spread out, and I think we're going to see more trouble getting the Mustangs to actually fight. I think we're actually going to see better racing down in the Mazdas, as we are side by side for the race lead. Franco Sanchez Buckley. Nicholas Sanchez Buckley. Oh, Tomas Arevalo in the middle of these guys. Ray Lombardi goes by. Javier Mendez. Javier Mendez was alongside Franco Buckley for that front position. That is now changed. Ray Lombardi with that Toyota on his back end. And Tomas wants to go by, apparently. On board with Ray Lombardi. Now one of the, if not the top community rep down there in the Mazdas in the MX-5 Deep Dive over on Discord. It's been interesting to see how that group has taken form over the course of season number 4, at least taken some changes. Ray doing a lot of cool stuff in that Discord as well. Up in Toyota's side by side, Perkins and McConnell fighting as they go down to Brooklands. McConnell on the outside trying to find a way back to the inside, hasn't found it just yet, and nose to tail here with the Team WatsonRacing.com machine. And Perkins going to leave the door open on the inside of turn number 6. That might be just what McConnell needs. If he can get alongside or even have position in the cops, this would completely change this battle as they leave Scott Banks in their dust. And sure enough, Perkins on the outside, McConnell on the inside. That just might be what car number 9 needs. Still alongside. And Perkins got a great run out of cops. Interesting little piece of racetrack. Maggots into a harder right hand to Aintree. Really, really tough quarter to make in these cars. There isn't a production car in the field aside from maybe the Mazda that actually wants to take that corner the right way. Even Toyota has some troubles. Body roll and all of that, compression up over that transition, it gets really tough. A little further down in the group, you've got Nick Green and Dylan McAuliffe battling 5th and 6th. And John Liam actually not far back either. Let's go on board with Dylan. This is in the 6th position in class, 14th overall. You see the body roll there, pitching the nose into Cops. And I actually took some extra laps in the Toyota just to see what it was like here on this national layout. And it really is mash the brake for a second, get the noses set, and just ride it out through Cops. Now into Aintree here, Maggots and Aintree, bit of a different story. The nose perches up in the air, and it's really tough to bring it back down. But if you can do so by setup, I think you'll be a lot better off. And of course, these guys can make open setup changes to their cars. I wasn't making any of those as our Toyota leaders go by Tim George. 2nd place in the Renaults. The Renaults have definitely split up. We saw a really good battle between Tim and Ed to start the race off, and well, they have now kind of fallen apart. 16 minutes to go. Scott Banks, an opportunity here on Andrew Perkins. McConnell has since gone by. At least the number 18 car. It's interesting. I really thought this shorter track would bring out some different moments, different tendencies, but seeing the lighter car count, I think, has really calmed everybody down. You're down to, I think, some of the better drivers in this series for sure, that are more patient, that are here for points, here to have some really good fun and make it through all 25 minutes, even if they want to get messy at the end and really go for their spots. Everybody in this race, I feel like, is extremely respectful, aside from maybe the start there with Brooks Wegner. I'm sorry, but that was... I'm sure something happened to Brooks. I doubt it was intentional, but it really is not what you want to see at the start of a race. Nicholas Sudik here on Ed Rest. These are your two class leaders between Renault and Toyota. It's interesting to me how closely these two cars can fight. Toyota and Renault always seem to be around each other, but certainly seems like the Clio just falls off a cliff by tire wear, and the Toyota keeps up over the course of a run. Back up in Mustangs, of course, Barber Ford bringing us this series. We've seen some really good fighting in the Barber Ford Mustang Club this season. And actually, we'll put a pause on that. We've got really good Toyota racing. Andrew Perkins side by side with Daniel McConnell and Scott Banks almost simultaneously. And further back, Nick Green, John Liam, Dylan McAuliffe in their own fight. Perkins, though, hanging on the outside. They sorted out by Brooklyn, side by side here. 6th and 7th, McAuliffe and Liam. On Liam. No position change just yet. Well, back up to the Mustangs. Well, maybe not. Andrew Perkins now looking to the left side here. Daniel McConnell down to Cops. Such a fun corner in this Toyota. You just pitch the nose and get back to throttle as soon as possible and just ride it out. Just try to let the tires do their things. And it's working out for these guys. They're having some really good fun, it looks like, side by side, McConnell and Perkins. They might not say it's fun right now, but I guarantee you in about 13 and a half minutes when this race is over, they're going to look back on it and say they really enjoyed it. As Scott Banks took a look to the inside of Perkins, doesn't find anything yet. Perkins going to cover that up, give a shot in the shorts here to McConnell. Bump drafting. NASCAR style down to Brooklands in left field. And Perkins still in line. You can see these guys are really fighting. You saw how far they went out from the normal apex, the normal curbing there on the inside of left field. That was really cool to just watch them each push out to the outside of the track. Racing back here in the Mazdas. Franco Buckley, Javier Mendez, Ray Lombardi. Lombardi on the outside. Wow, Javier really sent it in and hangs on to this position by just a little bit over Lombardi. And they're not done behind him. Fernando Signoretto and Alan Bonilla. As, oh, a spinner! Fabian Zweyer! And that takes everything we were looking forward to in the Mustangs and throws it out the door. Let's watch onboard here with Fabian. Brooklands, then Luffield. Two really difficult portions of racetrack for this Mustang. First, you got to get the car to turn. Then you have to get it to be calm on exit. You get all that power down. It just wants to keep over-rotating once it's already moved the weight over. And you saw there, Fabian couldn't wrestle the car back to where it needed to be. Out into the grass he went. He falls down to the 4th position behind Fench and has David Fernandez just about a half-second back. Dan Taylor in that 6th spot. As Nick Green and Tim George race side by side, and everything changes in the Mazdas. Here we go. Benjamin Roberts has just gone by. There's Kevin Parrish right behind him. Our Mazda's now getting lapped by the Mustang leaders. A short track will do that to you. Parrish going to go up the inside of Ray Lombardi. And Franco Buckley loses the race lead in Mazda competition. That means Javier Mendez has to try and get away as Kevin Parrish dodges through the Mazda field, and Parrish stayed behind Javier. Now dodges to the left side of Javier Mendez into Maggots and Aintree. I'm used to saying Maggots and Beckett's. It's a little bit different. Maggots and Aintree. Javier catching some dirt, and suddenly we've packed him back up, 4 deep in the Mazdas. Chris Parkins not far back, but these are your top 2. Bump drafting down the Wellington Straight once more. You see damage there to the nose end of Franco Buckley as they head down into Brooklands. Inside the helmet, Franco Buckley really trying to wrestle this Mazda around that corner. So tough. Every single car, I feel like, has trouble trying to get to turn and get down to apex through Luffield. Every single one of the apexes you have to try and make. Big run here. Might we see a move to the inside in Cops? Franco going to stay in behind. Doesn't make a dive. Well, David Fernandez is still on Fabian Zweyer. We'll watch that fight, but the Barber Ford Mustang Club, they go to some bigger tracks. They don't go to places like Silverstone National, at least. They'd probably go to the big course. But they have been a lot of fun to watch this season. Really, really have. Places like the Charlotte Roval, Watkins Glen. I believe it was the Watkins Glen Cup course as well. Later on, we went to places like Road Atlanta already. Next up, we actually head out to England. We go to Brands Hatch, and it looks like there's some consideration to move over to the Indy circuit, which I think will be a lot of fun. So I say we usually go to longer circuits with the Mustang Club. We're maybe going to go to, well, the shorter circuit at Brands Hatch to have a little more fun. Mazda Racing, just a few laps to go. This will complete lap number 15 for these guys. They give him 9 to go, side by side for the race lead. Franco Buckley now to the inside. He gets the go-ahead from Javier Mendez and takes that spot back away. Crossover imminent, I'd say, and there is the number 8 car looking back to the inside. Javier Mendez trying to get position into Maggots and Aintree. Ray Lombardi there as well. That got really, really close to the hurry, and now you see that's David Fench joining these guys as Andrew Perkins and Scott Banks go side by side. Nick Green and John Liam make a pass. And Perkins is on the outside of Scott Banks and loses now 2 positions in this Toyota field. Watches McConnell go by, watches Banks go by, and now with 8 laps to go, has to try to find a way to get back by both of them for second place. Through Cops corner, Banks goes out a little bit wide. It's tough to go wide and not get a slowdown. Boy, Banks didn't tip the slowdown system. Oh, and Scott got real loose over that apex, over that bump there. Again, the transition into and out of Aintree, because Aintree is really that cut through. the transition into and out of that corner in particular, really, really difficult. I think the national course got more use with the previous paving, if you will, here at Silverstone, as now side by side we go once again between these two. John Liam, Nick Green, they do the same. Nick Green gonna hang on to it. Hang on to the spot as Andrew Perkins, there we go, gets that position back away. Let's see what Scott is able to do as Daniel McConnell is going to go down to the pit wall and try and get away from these guys, split the draft. But I feel like this course has gotten significantly less use since the repave, both in real world and in iRacing. Well, repave and reconfiguration. This transition, watch it here from the onboard shot. The transition there, big bump, and the transition here, it kind of falls back away, almost into the natural banking of the Grand Prix circuit. You see further back, we've got some more fun. Benjamin Roberts, I think, is that him coming back around? It is. I guess not coming back around. He's coming up to put Scott Banks and company a lap down as he goes by Nick Green and John Liam into Brooklands. And we've got Mazda on Renault action heating up. Fabian Zweyer goes by the Mazda leader of Franco Buckley, and now Ray Lombardi, by the way, has gone through to second place there. Here come more Mustangs on these Miatas, but you've also got David Levine about to fall behind Fabian Zweyer. A really interesting spot here. 3 different cars trying to figure out how to navigate this little piece of racetrack. Levine going to hold the inside as he should. And the Mazdas are trying to figure out where to scatter to, how to get by. This is Andrew Perkins has had trouble in Cop's corner. One of the top Toyota drivers in Production Car Challenge. And it looks like he's going to have some kind of issue down here in maybe the trickiest corner of them all at Silverstone. Just tried to shift the weight, got loose, couldn't hang on to it, overcorrected, and he is out in the gravel at Copse. One more look at it for driver number 18. He's been a lot of fun to watch this season. Haven't been able to talk to him just yet. We've talked a lot to his teammate, though, Nicholas Sudik, and yep, just chucked the car in, tried to drift, power out, overcorrected. All right, back to the class-on-class action. David Levine in front of some Mazdas and Mustang gear as Fernandez will go by. This is a difficult spot to be in for a Clio. They should be faster than the Miatas, but I will say David's not a front-wheel drive guy as he powers through Copse there and actually pulls on Fernandez. He's not a front-wheel drive guy. He's just trying to give us some more Renaults out there. And you know what? Maybe he becomes more of a Renault Clio guy, runs a few more races with us this season, gets a little better at this particular car, but this is not his forte. He's used to high power and low ingenuity, if you will, stock cars. And here comes Ray Lombardi. Even when he's running sports cars, David usually runs Miatas. He's got one of his own, an NB, I believe. He might say an NA. So he's run a lot of races in the Lucky Dog Racing League, the Champ Car Endurance Series, a lot of this style of racing, these speeds anyways, but not in a front-wheel drive car that I at least am aware of. So a new challenge for him as he lets these Mazdas go by that he would usually be in. Meanwhile, battle for second, battle for third, 3.5 minutes to go in Toyotas. Let's get right back to it. Scott Banks, Daniel McConnell. The empty out onto the Wellington straight, and they've got a kicker right behind him. It's the Mustang leader, Benjamin Roberts, who wants to go by into Brooklands. He's going to send it on Banks. He's going to send it on McConnell, and that's going to put McConnell on the outside, might open the door for Banks. That was an optimistic send for sure from the overall race leader. But Roberts gets it done. He'll be able to power back away from these Toyotas as they're actually going to try and pull his draft. You see McConnell sticking to the race leader like glue, or at least trying to there out of Woodcote, trying to get some draft. Banks, though, an opportunity maybe down at a Copse corner. No, he stays patient. And the battle is not done behind these guys, by the way. John Liam, Nick Green, they're still relatively close. Liam has won that fight for now, and Dylan McAuliffe is just behind those two, as he has to let David Fench go by in a Mustang. Fabian Zweyer will be next. And there's Zweyer as he goes by Andrew Perkins and Tim George. Ray Lombardi has fallen back to the third spot in Mazda as he follows in behind Javier Mendez. And then back towards the front of the Toyotas, Scott Banks, Daniel McConnell, now Brooklands and Luffield once again. This time a very different situation. No Mustang to muck things up. But Kevin Parrish is not far back. Here we go, the opportunity and the move from Scott Banks onto the front stretch. We'll have just 2 laps to go for these drivers as they are 1 lap down to the overall leader. That's 2 to go for them. McConnell, maybe a crossover attempt. He pulls back out to the left side. That's going to put him on the outside into Aintree with the inside for Maggots. Really, Aintree is the corner you're setting up for as Scott Banks has the inside there, clips the dirt, gets power down, and is going to hang on to the spot for now, but McConnell might have a run. And he does, onto the Wellington straight. Car number 9 now going to have the inside for Brooklands. At first, I wasn't sure it was going to work. But clearly, he thought that one through, and with Parrish coming up, Parrish will wait. Side by side again. McConnell on the inside, Banks on the outside. Sudik has driven away, and so long as he completes one more lap around here at Silverstone, he will have another big race win. Scott Banks just trying to wrestle away second place. They stay side by side, another corner. Parrish... Kevin Parrish didn't know where to go, makes it 3 wide across the stripe, and he'll dive up the inside of Kopp's corner, and they go side by side a corner more. And Parrish ends up out wide, emptying out onto the runoff. He's going to have to do it all over again. And I think he'll stay back. I think he'll play nicely as Benjamin Roberts comes on through Aintree. He's just got a couple of corners left to go, as he has officially lapped the Renault field. Scott Banks, top spot here over McConnell. I think they're making contact. McConnell side drafting. It's onto the Wellington straight. Oh, so close. Down to Brooklands and left field. Final couple of corners for these guys. The race leader up ahead, taking the checkered flag. Benjamin Roberts out of Woodcote. It's a short run for him. Nicholas Sudik, sure to follow. Daniel McConnell over Scott Banks. He's going to take it. I don't think Scotty can do anything by the checkered flag now. Roberts takes checkers and Mustangs. And it's Nicholas Sudik, of course, in Toyotas. McConnell hangs on for second. Banks for third. And all just as we expected for the most part. For the last 10 minutes or so. As, wow, Nick Green, I think, fell back another spot to Dylan McAuliffe. Franco Sanchez Buckley will hang on in the Mazdas over Ray Lombardi and Javier Mendez, but Lombardi did get that spot back for second place and gets back ahead of Javier Mendez. Really, really good racing from the entire field. That was really cool stuff. The Mustangs were the most spread out class, I think, of the day, because even from the get-go, they spread out pretty big time. And once again, the Toyotas just might be the most exciting of them all. Let's take a look back and take a look at our unofficial race results. They should be official here pretty soon. Benjamin Roberts, of course, with the race win. It was that cut and dry for car number 2. He powered away, led every single lap. And it's commonplace now for Roberts to go to victory lane. Kevin Parrish goes second place. Just from the get-go, Benjamin was faster. Kevin's got to find something and find some way to get the points on Ben Roberts, but I think at this point, it's looking like his championship. David Fench there in third. Fabian Zweyer, David Fernandez, your top 5. Nice little win there for Ed Rest as he goes 7th overall. And you see your top 3 in Toyotas. Sudik, McConnell, and Banks. Some really good fighting there. John Liam takes the 4th spot. Dylan McAuliffe there in 5th in class. Then Nick Green and Andrew Perkins. That unfortunate mistake down in Cops Corner took him out of it. Tim George, 15th overall. David Levine, 20th overall as they make up 2nd and 3rd in the Renos. And then you see that big battle we had between Buckley, Lombardi, Mendez, and Parkins. Buckley ended up coming back around Lombardi and Mendez. Lombardi fought with Mendez a little bit, finally bested the number 8 car, and Parkins came home in 4th. We've got some drivers waiting to talk to us, most notably our overall race winner as per usual, the Australian Benjamin Roberts, back to victory lane at Silverstone, this time on the national course. It's a fun little course, bit of a misshapen triangle, Benjamin, and clearly from the get-go you had something once again that the rest of the field did not. Do you feel like it's setup? Do you feel like it's driving style? What do you feel like gives you the edge over everybody else?
For quali, it's definitely set up. Something. The qualifying setups, I don't know what it is. I'm always a few tenths in front. But as for the races itself, the setup is still quick for 1 lap pace, but I think sort of my technique on some of these sort of more flowing tracks leaves a bit to be desired, and that's why sort of usually on these faster tracks, the guys are a bit closer than say somewhere like, I don't know, Okayama or sort of a slower tracks like that, sort of slow weird tracks. So yeah, it's a little bit down to setup and I guess also practice. Doing the split before really helps and just learning sort of wherever traffic ends up, sort of when you catch traffic. So all in all, good race. I'll take the points.
Definitely the most traffic heavy race of the season so far, I'd say. Would that track for you as well?
Yeah, 100%. We haven't had many really short tracks yet. So we haven't had a lot of traffic to deal with. I guess the only other real short one to be worried about is Oran Park. And the less places to pass there, so that's going to be even more of a nightmare than this was.
Yeah, Oran Park will definitely be difficult. I feel like we might see some we'll definitely see some at Summit Point, maybe even at Imola, but it's a pretty large track there as well. So as you mentioned, knowing how and where to catch traffic and kind of how to deal with it really helps. And even when Kevin was kind of still in the background there in some of our camera shots, he got caught up in weird spots. So you say running that first split, even though Kevin runs that, is it just experience maybe that comes down to? I mean, or just decision making?
Yeah, I think a bit of both of those things. I've done a few endurance races before, and I've been sort of on the upper end of it, or I've been in the smaller car, so sort of knowing what to expect from other cars really helps.
And how about these next couple of weeks? We go to Willow Springs next week for week number 8. I know you're still going to be focused on Silverstone this week, but in a week's time, Willow Springs, then the Nordschleife. Any expectations for those very wildly different circuits?
Nords, I just survived. Willow Springs, no idea. Haven't done a lap, so we'll see. But I can sort of focus on whenever now, because that's probably going to be the highest strength of field for the Mustangs all week. That was almost 3,500. So, I mean, I can get some early practicing for Willow. I think I'll need it.
There you go, Benjamin Roberts leading every single lap, I do believe, here at Silverstone National. Congratulations once again. We'll be talking to you next week as well.
Yeah, don't know if I'm at the broadcast next week. Depends on a few things, but yeah, maybe week after that, the Nords might see ya.
Well, there you go, Benjamin Roberts, another checkered flag for him, and hopefully we're talking to him a lot more this season. I'd say we will be for sure. Another checkered, another big win, a lot of SOF, a lot of points to go to his total. If we revisit the point standings for Mustangs alone, I mean, he's already got 122 on second place Keith Nelson, but we haven't seen in one of these races, if at all, in a while. So big jump up, I'm sure, for him once again. No other drivers want to talk to us this evening, not even David and Tim. We got Nicholas Sudik. I lied. Nicholas Sudik, Toyota race winner once again. It seems like it's the usual suspects taking wins every single week. Benjamin Roberts taking another one, you taking another one, Nicholas. But you definitely had to drive for it there in the get-go and then maintain the race over the course, and that's not easy to do at a shorter track like Silverstone National.
No, thanks very much for congratulations there. Good bounce back week compared to the self spin I had last week in that big SOF. But yeah, I had to kind of dig for that one and go early. A track like this, it's really difficult. Yeah, sure, it's a smaller track, but if you have a smaller track with like winding turns, stuff like that, you can kind of break away because the toe, it'll matter a little bit for acceleration, but it's not as powerful. But you've got 2 long straightaways, well, 3 long straightaways technically, but little tiny swing there at turn 1. But either way, like it's tough to break. But as soon as I got out of that draft envelope, I was like, all right. And then I laid down what I think is world record race lap right now, but I don't know. I have to go back and look. It's close though. That was just, the car was on. Andrew and I kind of been working on a couple things, just with communication. A couple of the other non-8.6 drivers kind of giving it a go too for Team Watson Racing, and giving some feedback, and that definitely helped out with some overall balance. But unfortunately, Andrew had a little incident, but his pace was strong too. So yeah, no, I don't know how I broke away. I guess it's just some good early lap driving.
So I'm quickly looking over world records, and it's going to be second, it looks like. Best lap, at least of what counted, best lap, a 104.785. The best that I can see is Nathan Smith out of the US at a 104.737. So you've got to find 5 more hundredths on this track. Do you feel like you can do that? It feels like every mistake you make on any end, I guess, quarter, if you call it a triangle, quarter of this track, ends up accentuating that much more. One little mistake really kills it here.
If my optimum is anything, there's about 2/10 in it. So
wow.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, it is weird, and I said it in session at the end of it too to the other drivers. It's very weird. I'm not exactly the best single lap pace person, especially when you get up to like higher formula cars and like downforce cars and stuff like that. But what I do have is consistency, and I think those consistent laps, especially like probably from like lap 4 onward to about probably lap 16, I was just constantly high 4s, low 5s, just every single lap. And yeah, I mean that's the consistency to this car, is just, or that's the key to this car, is consistency more than like I think I hinted on it a couple weeks ago. Just overheating the tires is an absolute killer, even in a short sprint race format like this, because it just the way the tire model works for cars. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm thrilled. Anybody getting a top 10 world record in qualifying race, doesn't matter. Like, that's still nothing to slouch over. But yeah, I'm beyond ecstatic with how this setup has turned out for this week, and obviously everything we've done at Team Watson Racing setups as well too.
Absolutely, you should be proud. And I have one more question before we let you go quickly. How much fun is it to just stab the brake and set it for cops?
Weird controversial opinion. I think I have more fun setting this car up for it because of the tendency to understeer than like a P2 car, or even like the Indy car. Oh, I said it. The IR18 and like the Mercedes Formula One cars. There's something about having a high roll, like tendency to understeer car and getting it right that is just more satisfying than something, that you can kind of just turn in or lightly lift and turn in. So yeah, every time I was hitting that apex and like clipping the curb like just right, I just like did like a little fist pump in my head, and then I remembered, I can't take my hands off the wheel. So yeah, no, grand fun here. And then like I said, feel bad, Tyler got taken out, Agostino got taken out from that phantom car sitting on the grid. But that's sim racing. That's unfortunately sim racing. We got little nuances, just like mechanical gremlins happen in the real world. So, but I hope he bounces back. Hope Andrew bounces back as well. And on to Willow Springs, which I actually have to learn for P3 League tomorrow. So I'm gonna be hitting the gym right after this. So good. Yep. Great job, everybody. As always, glad to have Pit Stop TV bring it to us.
Absolutely, Nick. Good to talk to you once again. We'll see you next time out at Willow Springs. Get practicing.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you.
Nicholas Sudik, a lot of fun to talk to. I'm glad I asked him about pitching the car into Cop's Corner. That, again, took some extra laps in this car, on this course. Well, in that car, on this course, leading up to this race. And it really is a lot of fun. Just chuck the car in. Stab brake, chuck the car in, and just hope you can hang on. That said, that was on baseline setup. I'm sure they got something working a whole lot better for them. But hey, here's a look at what's coming up here at Pit Stop TV. Again, we'll see a couple of these drivers in this race. In that race tomorrow evening, Larry King Laws, Langley Speedway tomorrow night, October 24th. The Lucky Motorsports Solutions Street Stocks presented by Elevated Performance, 9:15 Eastern. It's about the same time we go racing here for Production Card Challenge on Mondays. We go racing on Tuesdays. We'll have, I believe, a 75 lap feature, maybe 65. We'll see what they want to do. One pit stop required, but the street stock is so much fun. It's the rookie car on iRacing going to a free track now. Langley's a bunch of fun. These guys, I'm sure, are going to use the bumper a little more than we saw last week at USA. And then Wednesday, October 25th, we head out to Phoenix, Arizona, go racing at the Phoenix International Raceway of Old, the 2008 scan with the Gen 4 Cup car. Here on iRacing, it's the UFL Elite Series in their penultimate race for their 6th season of action. Then Sunday evening, we head out to Martinsville for the penultimate race of the Shake and Bay Racing Butt Kicker Cup Series. Of course, October 30th, we go back racing with these guys. We head out to Willow Springs. I was talking about earlier with some of these drivers. Should be a ton of fun. I've done plenty of practice there, getting a little bit of sightseeing done at Willow Springs, learning that track a little more. It's still brand new to iRacing. It's got those 3D grasses around the track, and I think will be one of the coolest rounds of the season, if not the coolest round of the season. I'm really looking forward to next week as we head out to California. That'll do it for us at Pit Stop TV. A big thank you, of course, to Barbara Ford, bringing us coverage of Production Card Challenge this season. Of course, thank you as well to Whiplash SimCams, ATVO, and CC's Business for being by our side through every broadcast we do here at Pit Stop TV, and the below groups for helping us make it happen in audio, ATVO, Whiplash SimCams, OBS, and iRacing.com. That'll do it here at Silverstone. We will see you next week at Willow Springs, or tomorrow night at Langley, 9:15. Be there for LMS Street Stocks.
If you're ready to hit the track in the iRacing Ford FR500S Mustang, then sign up for the Barber Ford Mustang Club today. With great prizes from our awesome sponsors, this league is fast, fun, and best of all, free to race in. Take on 6 races of wheel-to-wheel action, all broadcasted live on Pit Stop TV. As a member, you will receive a $500 voucher to Barber Ford, plus entry into a raffle for a brand new Fanatec H-Pattern shifter. Every point you earn on the track is 1 entry into the raffle, meaning you can race your way into a brand new Fanatec shifter drawn on December 15th. Battle your competitors at Charlotte Speedway, Watkins Glen, Road Atlanta, Barber Motorsports Park, Brands Hatch, and for the finale, Lime Rock Park. Join the Barber Ford Mustang Club at League ID 3350 today.